think about a time, maybe in the last week, maybe in the last month, maybe in the last year, where you feel you've experienced anger.
Hello and welcome. Jay Shetty is an internet personality, storyteller, podcast host, purpose coach, and former monk who's making wisdom go viral. After hearing a monk speak at the young age of 21, Jay decided to spend half of his summer vacations working for a large financial organization and the other half living as a monk in India. He eventually chose the self-growth and service-focused life of being a monk.
So every day I'm trying to plant seeds of gratitude, and I recommend doing it the first thing you do in the morning.
And lived with monks for 3 years. But he knew that his purpose in life lay outside the monastery. He decided to share the wisdom he learned and transform the world as a best-selling author, podcast host, and purpose coach. What is the one thing everyone is searching for?
People see you, they look through your soul, they watch you, and they just think, they can see everything about you that you don't like about yourself.
At first, you may think it's wealth, power, or fame, but really, it's what all of those things often promise to bring: happiness. Everyone wants it, but few seem to truly find it. Even the people that seem to have their whole world together are usually still seeking happiness. But what if I told you that the happiness you're seeking,
if this is an intrinsic motivation, like what I was saying to Evan, is this is something that you truly believe in, then you're not worried about whether other people believe it.
is already inside you. You just have to know where to look. We all have a desire to experience more happiness and more success in our lives, but most of us are looking in the wrong places. Although Jay had found a path to happiness, something he struggled to overcome along the way is something a lot of people struggle with.
But the problem is when you keep in your mind, you stop yourself from reconciling. So you're already suppressing and boxing in your mind.
Overcoming the fear of what others think when finding your passion. Everyone has a calling, something that they were put on this earth to do, but people often find themselves struggling to find what it is for them because they're so influenced by the ideas and opinions of others. Jay struggled with this too. So how do you break free? How do you learn who you are and what your purpose is without the influence of others? Jay broke it down in 3 simple steps.
You know, everything you just said, like, really connected with me. It really felt powerful to me. And I said I'd love to experience more of it.
The first step is writing down everything you're chasing right now. The second step is to ask yourself, where did that idea come from? Did that idea come from your mom, or your dad, your friend, your brother? Or did that idea come from your heart and your mind? The third question you have to ask yourself is your dream really your dream? When you go through that exercise, you want to keep the stuff that's yours.
And I'm so grateful that I get to do it. I'm so happy I get to do it, and I want to keep protecting it. I don't want to get lost in the wave. What people don't know about me is that I was suspended from school 3 times for trying out all sorts of things. I was experimenting with all the drugs in the world. And at 18, I was really fortunate when I met a monk. And he captivated me like no one had ever captivated me before. It was like staring at the most beautiful woman on the planet. You know, I was completely fixated on him and his message. And he captivated me like no one had ever captivated me before. I lost 2 great friends when I was 16. That made me rethink everything. I just thought to myself, wait a minute, these were beautiful people that I loved. Having money, having fame, that just doesn't seem to add up. And then meeting the monk kind of made that shift possible. And he spoke about this incredible principle where he said that we should plant trees under whose shade we do not plan to sit. And he was speaking about this principle of selfless sacrifice. I think one of my first things in failure is don't take it more personally than it actually is. I genuinely believe failure has feedback. Failure has the ability to actually tell you what you need to improve. Improving to get the actions that you want to take. Don't make that result about the person who said no. Don't use failure as a way to prove someone else wrong. When you prove others wrong, you end up trying to get validation and approval for them, and now if they're not impressed when you're right, you lose again. And so that's the thing about failure in the second half is you have to see failure as an improvement. Everyone who rejected me in my life up until now has made me more hungry, taught me so much more about myself, and made me up my game. And I think if failure doesn't make you up your game, it's the same as losing in a sport. I think we feel that pain because we look at a failure right? We look at it as a complete definition of us. You know, failure is an event, not a person. Whereas we start thinking we are the failure of one's own abilities and qualities, which blew my mind. Notice it didn't say receiving appreciation for your qualities. Yeah, appreciation of one's own abilities and qualities. Not the appreciation of others, not the validation of others, not the approval of others. When you're going out to a party, you dress up and you look at the person and you go, how do I look in this? I'm like, no, ask yourself, how do I look in this? Every time you notice yourself, say something negative to yourself. And we don't realize how much the words we say to ourselves have an impact. That when you say something like to yourself, like, I'm starving, right? When you say that, guess what? Your body gets triggered into feeling like it's starving. But when we say to ourselves, I'm exhausted, rather than saying, I'm going to make time for a nap today, you're saying the same thing. But what you're saying is changing it. So first spot that pattern. One of the things I think a lot of people say to themselves is, I'm not good enough. If you spot that, where is that happening? It's usually happening when you're browsing through social. So now let's stop. Let's limit the time you spend in that place, with that person, whatever it is that's sparking and triggering that thought.
Anytime you have a negative thought, that's the mind, right? Anytime you have a negative thought, you have a thought that's taking you away from a higher principle of collaboration, connection, humanity. Anytime you have a thought of harming someone else, anytime you have a thought of revenge, making someone else look bad, any of those things, you know it's that inner voice that tells you it, right? That's how you know the difference. Really, when you walk 1,000 miles in someone else's shoes, you realize that you don't envy them, right? Robin Roberts, she had this great quote. She said that if we all chucked our problems into the middle of a room or whatever it is, we'd all grab ours back, right? When you really look at the struggle and challenges that people have been through, it doesn't seem so attractive. So how can we find a solution to being envied? Really always be humble, always be grounded. If there's people that are envying you, always express yourself in the most servant leader format, right? Don't ever let it feel like reality. Be yourself, be humble, be grounded in that way.